told you that while much of Europe is abandoning the altar, Croatia is setting it on fire. In a continent where faith is fading and churches are turning into museums, one nation is defying the script. Croatia isn't losing its religion. It's unleashing it. Catholicism here isn't just hanging on. It's erupting with passion, with purpose, and most shocking of all, with crowds of young people who aren't walking away from the church, they're running toward it. Why Croatia? Why now? The truth will shake what you think you know about faith in the 21st century. What do you think is fueling this revival? A cultural pushback, a divine movement, or something else entirely? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take. And if stories like this make you question the headlines, smash that like button. Share this with someone who still believes in miracles, and hit subscribe so you never miss what they're not telling you. To understand why Catholicism is surging in Croatia today, you have to trace the scars that shaped the soul of the nation. To understand what's happening in Croatia today, you have to look back to when faith wasn't celebrated, but crushed. After World War II, Croatia was part of communist Yugoslavia. From 1945 until the early 1990s, religion wasn't simply discouraged. It was controlled, spied on, and sometimes punished. Priests were followed by secret police. Church property was seized. Religious education was banned from schools. Even attending Mass could put your job or your safety at risk. But here's the thing. Croatians did not abandon their Catholic faith. Instead, it went underground. Families whispered prayers behind closed doors. Children learned about God in kitchens instead of classrooms. Baptisms took place quietly, away from watchful eyes. The church became invisible in public life, but more alive in private hearts. It was no longer just a religion. It became an identity, symbol of who they were as a people. Then came the 1990s and the collapse of Yugoslavia. Croatia fought a brutal war for independence. Cities were shelled, homes were destroyed, and more than 500,000 people were displaced. In those dark years, Catholic churches became more than places of prayer. They were literal shelters, protecting people from bombs. They were hospitals for the soul, where families buried their dead, baptized their children, and clung to hope. Soldiers carried rosaries into battle. Mothers prayed novenas for their sons on the front lines. Mass was celebrated in basements while shells exploded overhead. Faith was no longer hidden in whispers. It was carried out loud in the open, because for many, it was the only source of strength left. When the war ended, Croatia had to rebuild everything: roads, bridges, homes. But more than that, the nation had to rebuild its spirit. And it was the Catholic Church that stepped into that role. No longer underground, no longer suppressed, it emerged as a guide for healing, reconciliation, and unity. This is where Croatia's story takes a sharp turn away from the rest of Europe. In many countries, once the war or persecution ends, faith fades into the background. But in Croatia, the opposite happened. Instead of drifting away from religion, people ran back to it. The church wasn't a relic of the past, it was the foundation for the future. Catholic values began shaping laws, guiding politics, and inspiring cultural rebirth. Priests were no longer watched by secret police, but respected by the nation. Families didn't hide prayers in whispers, they sang them in public. Faith was not something old to be forgotten. It was something alive to be passed on. Now comes the most surprising part. Across Europe, young people are walking away from faith. In countries like France, Germany, and the UK, churches are closing their doors because youth attendance is so low. But Croatia is different. Its young people are not just attending church, they're leading the charge. College students in cities like Zagreb and Split are waking up early to attend daily Mass before classes. Public squares fill with young people praying the rosary. Eucharistic processions led by students stretch through city streets, transforming ordinary roads into rivers of prayer. This isn't duty. It isn't routine. It's conviction. These young Croatians aren't embarrassed about their Catholic identity. They're proud of it. They're creating Catholic podcasts, designing Instagram pages filled with scripture, and leading youth festivals that draw tens of thousands. Even the numbers prove it. As of 2024, nearly 60% of Croatians between 18 and 29 attend Mass at least once a month. That's one of the highest youth religious participation rates in all of Europe. And the number of priests under 35 has risen by almost a third in just 10 years. That means vocations are not shrinking, they're thriving. At the very center of Croatia's Catholic soul is a devotion that is both ancient and burning with life today: the love for the Virgin Mary. To Croatians, Mary isn't just a figure in stained glass. She's their mother, their protector, their hope. Her presence is everywhere, in kitchens, in village shrines, in the whispered prayers of families. She's woven into Croatian history itself. When Ottomans laid siege to the town of Sinj in the 1700s, Croatians credited Mary with their miraculous survival. Today, every year, they carry her image through the streets in a massive procession of gratitude and faith. At Marija Bistrica, the National Marian Shrine, hundreds of thousands gather each year to kneel before the Black Madonna. Some come barefoot, others walk for days. They come with grief, thanksgiving, and prayers they've held in their hearts for years. And just across the border in Medjugorje, a place spiritually tied to Croatia, tens of thousands of pilgrims walk up rocky hills, singing hymns to Mary, believing she is still calling her children closer to God. These pilgrimages aren't tourism, they're lifelines. People arrive broken, but leave renewed. They arrive carrying burdens, but walk away carrying peace. For Croatians, Mary is not distant. She is alive, walking with them every step. The resurgence of faith in Croatia isn't only seen in pews or shrines. It's reshaping every layer of society. Economically, pilgrimage tourism has turned small towns into thriving centers of life. Restaurants, hotels, bookstores, and artists survive on the flow of pilgrims. Spirit has become a source of livelihood. Politically, Catholic values are influencing debates on family, life, and education. Politicians often reference Christian principles in their campaigns. Laws are shaped with Catholic teaching in mind. In education, Catholic schools are gaining prestige. Families see them not just as places of study, but as places of character, discipline, faith. Even culture has been renewed. Catholic music and festivals fill public spaces again. Marian icons are displayed proudly in towns. Stories of saints and miracles are making their way back into films, literature, and songs. In rural life, parishes remain the heartbeat of the community. The church isn't just a Sunday stop. It's where neighbors gather, where news is shared, where life's milestones, baptisms, weddings, and funerals are celebrated together. What makes Croatia unique is that Catholicism isn't just faith, it's survival. Time and again, when outside powers threaten their culture, their language, or their independence, it was the Catholic Church that kept their identity alive. During Ottoman occupation, Croatians clung to their faith in secret chapels. Under the Habsburgs, the Church defended their language and traditions. Under communism, faith lived underground. And during war, churches became sanctuaries of hope. Generation after generation, Croatians remembered. They refused to surrender faith because for them to lose it would be to lose themselves. Now, in a Europe where faith is fading, Croatia stands out like a bright light. Its youth are not ashamed of kneeling in prayer. Its streets are filled with processions, not just protests. Its churches are not empty. They're alive. This revival isn't about nostalgia for the past. It's about conviction for the future. Croatians aren't lighting candles to mourn what was lost. They're lighting them to pass on a flame that still burns. Parents are raising children with the rhythms of the church calendar. Young adults are rediscovering ancient hymns and prayers. Communities are uniting around faith that is not hidden. But proudly lived, Croatia is showing Europe something shocking: that Catholicism doesn't have to decline, that youth don't have to abandon belief, that faith doesn't have to fade. It can rise again. So why is Catholicism surging in Croatia? Because this nation remembers what it means to suffer and endure. Because its people refuse to let their prayers be silenced. Because in the hardest moments, they discovered that faith wasn't just a tradition. It was life itself. And now, a new generation is carrying that torch forward. Not with fear, but with fire. If this story surprised you, if it made you think differently about faith in the modern world, then don't stop here. Share this with someone who still believes in miracles. Leave your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take. And most importantly, hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss more true stories of faith rising where the world least expects it. Because Croatia is not the end of the story. It's just the beginning.